All right, ready to dive in. We're cracking open Timothy Ferriss's The 4-Hour Workweek today. This book, oh man, it's like a Bible for anyone who's ever felt like there's got to be more to life than the 9-to-5 grind. We're talking about work, wealth, and designing a life that actually lights you up right.
Absolutely. This chapter is a goldmine. You know, what always gets me is how Ferriss just dismantles those old school ideas of wealth and success right off the bat. He throws out this idea of the new rich, or NR for short. And it's all about experiencing, a millionaire lifestyle, but without actually needing to be a millionaire.
Whoa, hold on, stop right there, because that's what I find so fascinating. It's not about the zeros in your bank account. It's about the freedom and the choices those zeros are supposed to give you, right?
Exactly. And that's where the freedom multiplier comes in. It's not just about having more time and money, but it's how you use them. Ferriss breaks it down into the what, when, where, and with whom of your life. When you control those four things, the value of your time, your money, it skyrockets.
So instead of wishing for more vacation days, you're saying you could just decide to work from, Bali for a month and not even have to ask your boss. That's a game changer.
Exactly. Design a life where time and location, they work for you, not the other way around. Think about it. You see these high-powered executives, tons of money, but chained to their desk 80 hours a week. Fancy car, stuck in traffic. Ferriss calls this the hedonic treadmill. Always chasing more, never really satisfied.
Like that saying, nobody wishes they spent more time at the office, right?
Exactly. That's where the new rich, they're different. It's not about delaying gratification for someday when you have enough money or vacation time. It's about ditching that whole deferred life plan mentality.
So instead of that dream trip at retirement, you're saying take mini retirements throughout your life. Like Ferriss tells this story, Julie and Mark, they took their three kids, on a year-long sailing trip around the world.
And get this, they spent less money than staying in their routine. It just explodes that myth that you need to be rich to have those life-changing experiences.
Seriously, that story alone makes you rethink everything. But how do people actually do that? Mini retirements? Is it lottery winner territory?
No lottery needed. It's about designing your life to allow for it. Maybe it's a sabbatical. Maybe it's remote work. Maybe it's finding ways to generate income from anywhere. It's about creativity, challenging those assumptions about how work has to be.
Which leads to a big question. What are the goals of the new rich then? Because it's more than just money, right?
Absolutely. Ferriss lays out a few goals in the chapter, all about freedom and living by your values. One goal is having others work for you, not the other way around.
So there's that entrepreneurial spirit, but not the soul-crushing, build an empire kind, right?
Right. It's not about being a workaholic. It's leverage, systems, automation, so your money works harder. Think passive income, outsourcing, building something that doesn't need you there constantly.
So you can actually enjoy the fruits of your labor. And those mini retirements sound even sweeter that way.
Exactly. And speaking of working smarter, another goal is the minimum effective load.
Okay, gotta ask, what's that and why should we care?
It's finding the absolute minimum effort for maximum results. Cut the busy work, the distractions, focus on the 20% that gets you 80% of what you want.
So ruthless efficiency, no more glorifying the hustle.
Exactly. It's about intention, strategy, so you have more time and energy for what matters. And for the new rich, that's not just working yourself to the bone. It's about distributing those recovery periods, those mini retirements, throughout life. They get that rest isn't a reward. It's essential for creativity, productivity, well-being.
Like a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. Now here's something interesting. Ferriss says for many new rich, the perfect job is the one that takes up the least amount of their time.
Really? Why would anyone want that?
Because it frees them to pursue passions, side hustles, their own definition of a fulfilling life. Work isn't your whole identity. It's about supporting your chosen lifestyle, not dictating it.
Flipping the script, instead of working to live, you design a life and figure out the finances later.
Exactly. And sometimes that means redefining work altogether. Freelance, passion projects, even creating jobs that don't exist yet.
Okay, but real talk, does this work in the real world? What happens when people try?
The million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
Well, Ferriss gets into real stories of people living this 4-hour workweek life. And some of these stories, let me tell you, they'll make you want to quit your job and hop on the next flight to, somewhere inspiring.
All right, spill the beans. Tell us about these rule breakers.
Well, there's this one guy, Mark. He was what you'd call traditionally successful millionaire, built multiple businesses.
Living the dream, right.
On paper, yeah. But get this. Mark was miserable. He hated his businesses, felt trapped by his possessions.
So he's a cautionary tale about success without purpose, without direction.
Exactly. Chasing those arbitrary goals without asking what he really valued.
Like climbing the ladder only to find it's against the wrong wall.
You got it. And that's huge in this chapter. It's not just escaping the 9 to 5, it's what you're escaping to. Redefining your dreams, those passions you left behind, designing a life that aligns with your values, not just your bank account.
Because trading one rat race for another isn't the answer.
Exactly. And speaking of finding your own path, Ferriss gets into some really cool real-world examples in this chapter. He talks about people who are actually living this 4-hour work week lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
And these aren't, trust fund kids. These are everyday people who just decided, you know what, I'm taking control. I'm designing a life on my own terms.
That's what I love about these stories. They make it real. This isn't some fantasy. It's achievable if you're willing to, shake things up a bit.
Exactly.
One that really got me was the single mom. Completely redesigned her life. Moved her and her son to this alternative school community.
Talk about thinking outside the box. Instead of that grind,
Yeah.
the childcare costs, the commute, she's found a way to blend her work, family, all in this supportive environment.
And then there's the story of Anthony, quits his job after reading the 4-hour work week, ends up creating a whole convention for dating instructors.
See, you just never know. You open yourself to possibilities, you give yourself permission to experiment, try things that might seem a little out there, and boom.
It's inspiring, right? Seeing how people take these principles and create their own version of freedom.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of it. It's not one size fits all, it's a framework. You think differently about work, about life, what matters to you.
It's like Ferriss is giving people permission to question the script, the whole go to school, get the job, work till you're old thing.
Exactly. Reclaim your life, right? And the examples, they show there's no one right way to do it. It's what works for you, your values, your aspirations.
I can already hear the skeptics, though. This is easy for single people, no kids, but the rest of us.
Right. Life circumstances matter. But Ferriss actually addresses that. He says these principles, they're adaptable, even with families, other commitments.
He brings up Julie and Mark again, sailing the world with their kids.
Exactly. Proof that even with a family, you can have these extraordinary experiences if you're willing to challenge those assumptions.
It's like we limit ourselves by what we think is possible.
Absolutely.
And often those are self-imposed limits.
Exactly. Now, that doesn't mean it's always going to be easy, this lifestyle design thing. It takes self-awareness, planning, even some risk-taking sometimes.
But isn't that the exciting part?
Yeah.
Stepping outside your comfort zone, seeing what you're really capable of.
Absolutely. And the rewards, a life of freedom, fulfillment, purpose, that's worth considering, wouldn't you say?
No doubt about it. And even if you can't just drop everything and sail off tomorrow, there are still lessons here for everyone, no matter what your situation is.
Like what?
Like questioning those defaults, looking for alternative paths, designing a life based on your values, not just the paycheck.
I'm with you on that. This chapter isn't just a how-to, it's a call to action. It's like, look at your own life. Ask yourself some hard questions.
Like what kinds of questions?
Like, are you truly living in a way that makes you happy, that brings you fulfillment? And if not, what are you going to do about it? What steps, even small ones, can you take today to start living in line with your values, your aspirations?
It's about taking control, making choices about how we want to live, right?
Yes. Moving from reacting to acting,
Yeah.
Not letting life happen to you, you become the designer. And that shift, that's powerful.
I also love how Ferriss talks about experiences over possessions. Not about stuff, but memories, moments.
Right. Shift from material wealth to experiential wealth.
Yeah.
And often those experiences, they don't require a ton of money. They require you to be intentional with your time, your resources.
And sometimes to face your fears.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like that leap, quitting a stable job to chase a passion, that's scary for a lot of people.
Terrifying, yeah. You're leaving comfort, routine, everything you know.
Right.
But that's where Ferriss says, often those risks, they're not as risky as we make them out to be.
It's that whole, what's the worst that could happen?
Exactly. What is the worst? You have to start over, adjust, but even those failures, and I'm using that word loosely, they're learning experiences.
And honestly, these days, job security, that's almost an illusion anyway.
Tell me about it. Companies change, industries change, the job market's always in flux.
Right.
So why not take a chance, a calculated one, but bet on yourself?
That's a good point. So someone listening They feel that spark that maybe I could do this. What's the most important thing for them to remember as they start exploring this lifestyle design thing?
I'd say define your ideal. What does freedom look like to you? Your values, your passions, what impact do you want to make? Once you've got that vision, then you can reverse engineer how to get there.
I love that. Start with the end in mind.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment, try stuff, challenge what you think you know. You'd be surprised what you discover about yourself, what you can actually do.
This has been so eye-opening. So to wrap up, what's the big takeaway you hope people leave with?
It's really simple. Don't wait for someday. Design the life you don't need to escape from. Start today.
Couldn't agree more. So, what are you going to do with your 4 hours? Share your thoughts on our forum, and until next time, keep questioning those defaults and designing the life you deserve.